Do you truly love what you do for a living? Is your career everything that you wished it would be? I mean, is your job not really a job? Do you love what you do so much that you're just filled with pure joy whenever you step into work? Today, I have a guest who would say that he's found his perfect job. Now, I met this guy about a year ago, all the way back in Ohio when I was selling phones for T-Mobile. The funny thing is, he's actually from Los Angeles. He just happened to be visiting family that weekend. And after chatting with this guy for a while, I realized that he was very, very passionate about what he did for a living. And as we got to talking, I realized he works for Disney and ABC Records. His name is Tyler. You can call him Taz. That's what he goes by. And Taz is going to be on the show to talk about how he got to where he is and, you know, to give us some insight on how we can find that job or that career that is just so fulfilling for us. Taz has 2 bachelor's degrees, one in music education and commercial music, and the other one in language arts. He also received his master's in music education and commercial music. Today, along with talking about his insights and how he got to where he is, we're also going to be discussing a special achievement that he earned for the TV show Stitchers that was on ABC Family. And we're also going to be discussing some of his upcoming project as well. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I want to give a special shout out to Backpack Boy Beats for all the music that you hear on this show today. And just enjoy episode 27. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in to the Kyle Hartman Project. All right, guys, so I'm here with Taz. He is a busy guy. He's taking time out of his busy schedule this weekend to still record the show. So episode 27 is going to be really exciting. Taz, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your Saturday to be with us on the Kyle Hartman Project.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored.
No problem. So I gave a brief intro already. Can you just explain a little bit further for everybody listening? So what exactly do you do behind the doors over at Disney and ABC Records?
So I'm a music producer, and so I'm what they call a ghost producer and a songwriter. So I work on soundtrack scorings for TV shows and film under the company. So what I do is I do a lot of things from, actually writing out the music, recording, playing instruments. So pretty much a lot of the audio, like music that you hear for like soundtracks whenever you're watching movies, things of that nature.
That's really interesting. I told a lot of friends, I have you on a lot of social, Snapchat, Instagram and things, and I joke around a lot. One of my friends, I always just see these orchestras, just going after it in some studio, and you're in there behind the scenes, and it just looks super fascinating. And I can tell that you're passionate about it. So one of my biggest questions for you, I think, is how did you find that niche that just, fit your lifestyle? I mean, you just seem like you're so happy with what you do. And how did you kind of get there? Did you have a lot of planning to get there? I mean, did it fall in your lap? What happened?
Well, I always tell people that music was one of the only things I was truly ever good at, that I excelled in, that just it came naturally to me, especially growing up in a house. Even though I didn't grow up in a household where people weren't musically inclined of that nature. So for me, it was just always one of the things that, like, I knew I had something with it. And a lot of the times, music, my earliest memories are from music, like me doing different things in elementary school for talent shows, or just always wanting to, take piano lessons or guitar lessons, just anything that was a music composition of that nature. Mm-hmm. And it was always something when I knew that I could really, possibly make a career out of this. It was just something, that I knew that I had to do, and I knew I was going to do it. A lot of people growing up said, "Oh, that's cute. You want to work for a record company and you want to make music," and it's really cute, but that's really hard
Oh, wow. I'm glad you said that because that's kind of exactly what I was touching on. One of the things that I think about when I think of, you know, our society and the common 9 to 5, just all the stigma around having to get up on Monday, go to work. You know how that goes. And what I'm really trying to dive into with this podcast is sort of opening that door for somebody that might be listening who is truly passionate about something but isn't living their life doing that, you know. And I'm glad you said that because what do you think stops a lot of people from finding that and just taking it? Is it fear? Do you think there's a lot of pressure from their families? I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of different things.
I truly believe it's fear. It's the fear, especially if their passion has to deal with being in, you know, the entertainment industry, because there is a lot of fear of rejection that comes with wanting to get into this business. A lot of it is fear. A lot of it is, you know, they might not have the best support system behind them. So it's a combination of those things with maybe a few other factors, but you just have to really, if you want it that bad, you will find a way to make it work, especially if it's something, you know, that you're going to truly be happy doing. I mean, come on, I'm truly happy with what I do. I mean, my boss is Mickey Mouse, and I produced her for, you know, the happiest place on earth, you know, aka Disney. So I have to love what I do, and I really think it is fear. But for me, if I had to overlook that fear, because it's like, okay, this is what I have, this is what I've been given. Music, a lot of the times, music made me smile when nothing else in this world could. So I knew that I had to go with it.
That sounds like a lot of self-awareness in there as well. And I think self-awareness is something that many of us struggle with. And I think fear is kind of what stems that. So in what happened in my experience for myself, I think I was scared to fall into place of who I truly was as a young adult, because I felt like there was a different standard that I had to uphold as a young adult. And when I look back, it was basically that standard was built on what I thought other people thought of me or thought I should be. And I think that stems from fear of not just owning who you really are and who you want to be. So I think that's really interesting. And you're even at work right now doing this podcast, technically, right?
Yes, I am. I mean, I'm early. I mean, I'm not doing anything till around like 11:30 or so. But I just decided to get here early so we have time to just sit and chat and catch up.
But see, that's my point. You're there, though, without even having to be, and you're not dreading it. You're loving every bit of what you're doing, and I think it's amazing. And that's why I wanted you to be able to talk on the show, too, because I love, you know, just finding people that are truly doing what they're meant to be doing. So one question I had for you, going back to, say, like, high school and college and growing up, and you knew you had a thing for music. How did you figure out what sort of lane you were going to take with music production? I mean, did you know that you wanted to be in the studio behind the big, you know, the big screens? Or was there ever any question of, you know, are you going to produce for artists or certain things like that?
I knew it was going to be a mixture of just a little bit of everything, just for the simple reason that I love writing. I tell people, you know, I'm a songwriter before anything. As much as I love performing in front of people, I'm a songwriter. I've been writing music seriously since about the 8th or 9th grade. I used to get in trouble, actually, in school because in English class or in gym class, I would always sit in the bleachers and write my music instead of participating. So I always knew that I was going to be a songwriter, and I did like different, you know, competitions while I was in high school, and I got a lot of awards for, you know, songwriting or just like writing poems or different things of that nature. So I always knew that, okay, songwriting is my stronghold, and you have so much more control when you're the one doing the producing and the songwriting, then, you know, instead of me just walking into the studio and someone give me a piece of, here, perform this, or we wrote this for you, so take a glance at it, and then we're going to record you. Because for me, I personally could never do this. That's why I can't really, you know, always like fathom with some people that are just handed a sheet of paper one day and just here, sing it, perform it. Like for me, like I have to connect with it, and that's why I truly like have to remind people I'm a songwriter, especially in this industry, because you know a lot of people forget that, because songwriting is the biggest part. Without the songwriter, you can't have the music, you can't have the melodies, the harmonies, and the words.
Right. It all comes together, and without each part of it, it's not there. And I think that's wonderful too, because, you know, would you say that it gets overlooked a lot? I'm sure you probably would say that.
Absolutely, because everybody is so worried about the finishing project of what it looks like in front of the audience or on the big screen. But that's why it's really important, if you are a songwriter and you do get in this business, or if you just do anything behind the scenes, that you have to remind people, especially when I go into meetings, you know, they have, and most other people, the label probably like hate me for this, but we have 2 ghostwriters, 2 producers. You can sit with them and bounce some ideas, and I always just shake my head and I'm just like, I'm my own writer. I write everything. Like my demo tape when I first got discovered, I wrote all 15 songs.
Wow.
So it does get overlooked a lot.
So when you're take me through the process. How long does it take you? Say you're working on a production for, you know, a movie or a show. What's like the timeline there to get from scratch to finish on that product?
Oh, so it's usually within, the most I've ever spent would be about 3.5 months on a process, because we usually get the notification when the movie goes to, like, when they're in the middle of finishing up filming, and it goes to the film editor. That's when, like, the people who do the soundtrack get the alert that says, hey, it's in editing, go ahead and start this. Or even when we find out the movie is starting to film, the beginning process of making the movie, we go right then and there, because what we do is we get bits and pieces of the movie sent to us, and we sit and we watch the scene.
Right.
And then we sit down and we say, okay, how can we do this? What sounds appropriate? What do we want to put here?
Yeah.
So we're getting bits and pieces of the movie while it's being made or edited.
That's super fascinating, because then that allows you to kind of create your own stories within each scene, because obviously,
right.
And that's where, with you writing too, I think that you're a storyteller, and I think that's
right.
where a lot of your passion comes through your writing too. And so that's really fascinating that you guys kind of get to just create your own process along with what the show's got going on, and then you probably don't even get to see the finished product until it all comes together, huh?
Right, until it all comes together. And what we'll do occasionally, we'll replay a whole scene when we finished the music for that scene, and we'll watch it and we'll think, okay, do we like this? Does it fit? Does it set the tone? And we go from there.
That'd be so neat to just kind of hang out and get to see that process and see the whole team kind of just going over the ideas. So one big show kind of stuck out when we were talking about all the things you've accomplished and all the things that have happened. So let's talk a little bit about Stitchers, and I want to talk to you about the award that show won, because you mentioned that it was something that's really never happened before.
Yeah, so Stitchers, that was the season, that was my very first production I ever did when I got signed on with the label. It was my first big production, and
what a way to start.
What'd you say?
Oh, I said, what a way to start.
Yeah, this last season that I worked on, it was, we sat down and we looked at the soundtrack, because the soundtrack got great reviews the first 2 times. And so we sat, and I wanted to, and I remember I had to fight a little bit of the label, because I had an idea of what I wanted to, you know, for the sound, and after following the story, especially the love story of the 2 main characters. And so I was really, really happy about the finishing work, because people were just like, oh, you're being a diva, you're being this, really taking control. It's no, I know what I want it to sound like, and I have a vision, and I know the vision's not going to come out the way I see it unless I'm in charge of it. So what ended up happening was, so Stitchers, it ended up receiving a diamond certification. So for people who aren't aware of how the industry works, everybody hears, the terms like, oh, it went multi-platinum, it went double platinum, it went gold or whatever. So that's how they certify singles and albums and things of that nature. So this received a diamond certified album. And a diamond certified, for anybody who's in the industry knows that is very hard to accomplish these days, because you have to sell an amount, exactly 10 million copies, hard copies.
Yeah, get that certified. Let me stop you there too. That is hard copies that had to be sold. So any streaming, any downloading does not count for that.
Right.
Which is really impressive in today's day and age.
Right. Especially, and that really doesn't happen too often for too many TV shows.
Right.
Not movies, but TV shows. Network. So that was when I heard the news, and because I always dreamed of that, because like one of my idols has 2 diamond certified albums to her name. Wow. And I was just like, I just want to get there one day. I just want to be a part of something that gets there, and that just be a dream come true. Because with streaming and downloading, it has changed the name of the game for the music industry. Entirely. And it's been the first TV soundtrack to ever do it. So I'm happy I had to be a part of history right there. So I'm really grateful, especially because this is probably right now my favorite soundtrack that I've ever worked on. It's probably because a lot of this was off of prior, just older songs that I wrote. One of the singles on there, Deep in My Daydream, that single got certified so many times. So that was an honor to have, a single diamond certified, and the whole album at the same time. So that's what I'm really, really proud of, because it's not easy.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it, because it sounds like such an awesome achievement, and especially since that was your first doing since you got the gig. I'm sure that's probably why you're still there. How was it with, holding tight to that dream and that vision to get it to where it eventually got? I mean, was that tough to kind of break through all those barriers and all the outside pressure to do other ideas?
It was, for the simple reason that because, when you do something one time in this industry, everybody will say, oh, do it again. We want to see this again. Or, I had to break a lot of barriers with even the sound that I used. I took a little bit of a different sound for the last season of it. And it was very much, it wasn't your typical orchestrated sound. I actually got a lot of my ideas from an old video game I used to play on Sega Genesis.
What? Do you remember the game?
Yeah, so it's the third Sonic the Hedgehog video game.
Yes.
And I remember...
I love Sega Genesis. That was my first console, too.
Yeah, and so I remember getting that idea, and I took a song from one of them, and I talked to my good friend Jackson. We've been working, he's known me since I was a teenager. He helped me put my first, demo tape together. So we were talking, and I was like, Jackson, I really, really want to cover this song. If we ask early enough, can we get the rights to it and see if we can cover it? He's like, we can see what we can do. At first I'm thinking, this might not happen. I'm a little nervous. But then we got the okay. And so we went from there, and I was like, Jackson, let's just put our heads together and kind of keep it to, the older composition with a little spin on it, because it's very much, like I said, it's not the typical orchestrated sound. And I got the idea watching one of the scenes that was filmed in the spur of security breakthrough. So I was like, okay, let's go with this. But that's where I got my inspiration, because a lot of people were just like, oh, that sound's never been produced. We don't know how it's going to sound. We don't know if we want this. But then when they saw the results of the first single being remixed, it was like, okay, we'll give it a shot and we'll see what happens. So we went ahead and we did it. So
that's
yeah, before we go to the next subject, I really have to thank the fans of Stitchers, because they was actually really, really big at Comic-Con this year.
Yeah.
And so they were actually selling the soundtrack. So I honestly believe them selling the soundtrack at Comic-Con is what made it so big. So thank you to the Stitcher fans
That's incredible.
We couldn't have got there without you guys. Thank you for making us a part of history.
And I looked at Stitcher's like Instagram page and everything, and they have an incredible fan base. And I don't think the show is no longer on air, correct?
Yeah, it's no longer on air right
but
now.
It still has a heartbeat, though, which is something I noticed, and it's really
very much.
Stitcher's was a sort of a sci-fi sort of thriller drama. Is that correct?
It was.
Okay, yeah. So everybody, make sure you go get on Terrarium or whatever app you use to stream your TV shows, and be sure to check out Stitcher's, because Taz had a big part in a lot of the audio there. And Taz, I'm super proud of you for sharing that too. I kind of wish I would have known this, because I would have tried to get that song on this episode.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Stitcher fans. We love you.
Yes.
We couldn't have got there without you.
We'll make sure to tag Stitcher's on when I post the episode to Instagram. I'll be sure to tag their page and everything, so we can get some of your viewers to see that you're on here. We got about 10 minutes left, just under that. What do you have kind of coming up? What are you working on now? Give us a little bit of the future Taz.
So we just finished working on, so Infinity Wars is done.
You were a part of Infinity Wars for Star Wars?
Infinity War for the Avengers movie.
For the Avengers movie. This is bad because I never watch like movies or TV. So
yeah, Infinity Wars for the Avengers, but I did have a part in Rogue One. But so we did Infinity War, so that's wrapped up. My next project is Disney is actually starting they want to do a prequel musical at their parks in a live amphitheater light show prequel to The Little Mermaid. So it's the backstory of how Ursula became evil before she got kicked out of the kingdom, and she just went,
What? No way.
Yeah. So we're working on that musical project for the Disney park. So we've been doing, some of the writing. I've been a part of the audition process, like finding different people that want to be a part of this production. If you go, I don't know if you've seen, but one of my latest Instagram posts was actually a session that we're working on for the Sea Witch. I have a few Instagram posts from the Sea Witch production, just like some things that we've been working on. So I'm really, really working on that. That's like my main focus right now. I don't really, there's other few projects in the works that I've been asked to be a part of. I'm just not sure if I want to go in that direction.
Well, I love that little bit of Disney flashback there. I grew up on like Disney movies, so I actually am kind of curious to see that backstory there. But so
read the book. If you go to Target, they now, like Barnes and Noble, they now have backstories, like a series of backstories to all the different villains. They have one for Maleficent, they have one for Ursula, they have one for the evil queen from Snow White. So that's part of my homework. I'm actually going to go through, because I actually sat and rewatched the original Little Mermaid, and now I'm going to sit and actually read that book to get some ideas and inspiration, because Ursula is my favorite Disney villain of all time. I plan on actually getting an Ursula tattoo, so.
Nice. Well, that is all really good stuff. With the projects that you get that come across your way, I mean, are these things that you can kind of just pick and choose from, or are there certain projects that you're mandated to do through the contract, or you know what I mean? How does that work?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, the head record producers of the label, they'll suggest something, but because I'm pretty adamant on what I want to do, they'll be like, do you think you would go with this? Could you work passionately on it?
Right.
And if I say no, they won't push, because there's no point in making music for something I'm not passionate about.
Yeah, because then it won't turn out, quality like you've been able to produce before.
Exactly. So, I mean, some of them are, my boss actually really, really wanted me to be a part of the Incredibles movie, but then something came up with another production, so I started late. So I just came to do a small sit-in for the Incredibles movie. I just had a recent post of it that I put up yesterday.
Nice. We'll be sure to share your Instagram and everything, too, so that people can check out.
Yeah, so, but I mean, it is a little bit of pick and choose. Sometimes it depends on what producers want to work with me, or, I worked with a new producer that has been in the industry for about 7 or 8 years now, and he worked on Infinity War, so that's how I got connected to Infinity War. It really just depends on the lineup of producers of who wants to work with who. Some of it's mandated. It all just depends on who you're working with.
That's really neat, though, to kind of learn about. It's just one of those careers that, you know, I don't know a lot about. I'm sure there's a lot of people that do. But it's something that fascinates the hell out of me. So I can't thank you enough for sharing it with us. One last thing. We have just a couple minutes. Do you have like a special quote that you live by, or just basically any words of encouragement that you want to leave everybody with today that, you know, that listens to our episode?
Also, quote that I live by. I think a special quote for me, the one that has really just stuck with me ever since I heard it about a year ago. It's called, "When you know your full worth, that's when you'll stop giving people discounts."
Wow. That's let that sink in.
Because a lot of the times we find ourselves, we know our worth, we know what we want to do, but somebody doesn't approve. So, and we have such a high price that I truly believe everybody touches themselves. But when we get not approved, it's almost like, think about it like retail. There's something that's costly. Let's say the customer doesn't want to pay full price. So if it's a commission sale, you know, the salesman will work with them to lower the price down to their liking. You cannot lower your price down for other people's liking. If they can't afford it, move on to the next person who can. And that's why I really, really like that quote. And I also love the quote, "Fear makes the wolf seem bigger than what he really is." That's a Native American Indian proverb.
I like all of that. The one you said first ties right back into the beginning of this episode where, well, they both kind of do, but just, yeah, like if you're growing up or you're getting older and you are fearing what everyone thinks about you, you're fearing what choices you're making and what effects they're going to have on others versus yourself, that's where he's talking about the discount. You're discounting yourself to other people for approval, and you're eventually going to lose sight of yourself and fall into a dark hole that is going to be tough to get out of, and it's called unhappiness.
Right. You can't, especially when it comes to your dreams. Your dreams are not worth the sacrifice at other people's expenses. If I would have listened to everybody that told me that's a hard industry, you know, that's a long ways, a lot of people go out for that and they get their dreams crushed, and you don't want to do that. Why don't you just be, you know, a businessman? But that wasn't the direction that I wanted to take, and I'm really glad that I didn't listen, because I wouldn't be where I am, because I couldn't imagine me doing any. It's a blessing to wake up every morning and to be really excited about what I do, meeting new people and traveling to new places and discovering new sounds. So yeah. I'm really grateful.
I'm really happy that you chose this path. I'm really glad that you stayed true to yourself. I hope to see more of that in the future from everybody. This has been a really good episode, Taz. I can't thank you enough.
I just want to die a legend. That's all I want. I just want somebody years down the road, like before I'm gone, I just want someone to say a living legend. That's all I want.
Hey, well, episode 27 of the Kyle Hartman Project, you guys heard it first. I have a living legend on my show right now. So thank you guys for listening to him and to me. Taz, it's been a real episode. I'm so grateful for this. You'll have to come back in the future. And yeah, once again, thank you for coming on.
Anytime. Thank you so much.